James, how are you? Great to see you.
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm great. I wish you were back here in Toronto, but this is
I,
good. I'll take it.
I would love to be in Toronto right now. It's probably a lot cooler than it is here.
No, my friend, it's pretty humid here.
Oh
Yeah.
no, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I know. But that's okay. The hair is okay today. It's not too frizzy, so I'm happy. James, thank you for this film. It's wonderful. And
And
as I'm watching it, it kind of gave me that stand by me feeling for girls type of thing, that the friendship that these four girls have is lovely. And it just reminded me of my days of when I was a young girl, like in the summer, running around with my girlfriends, thinking the world was just free to us. And so I wanted to ask you first, well, this is a two-parter. What inspired it, and how do you know women so well?
what inspired it was a lot of things. I'll try to keep it concise. I mean, being a parent, I have three
Yeah.
kids, boys and girls, and my wife also works in middle school, high school. So every year she's meeting a new group of 11 and 12-year-olds, and finding herself in the middle of conversations between kids and their parents. And most of my friends now have kids. So my world 24/7 is conversations between parents and children, trying to understand each other, sometimes successfully, sometimes not so successfully. And
Yeah.
I think I've always been interested in that. I think I've always, just growing up and being so close with my mother and my older sister, and really much of the culture, the music, the art, the movies that I love came from like my older sister and my mom, and things that they would have that I would steal my sister's tapes and books and magazines. But the specific thing is, a few years ago, there was an older man, found dead not so far from my house, and he couldn't be ID'd. He still, to my knowledge, has not been identified. And
Wow.
to me at the time, and still now, to not even receive the dignity of being named when you die felt like a signifier of a much larger, upsetting social problem of something that's fundamentally broken. And it was a catalyst for conversations I had with my family and with my children about specifically about how that could have happened, and then larger issues, in terms that are for younger kids, but about structural violence, about equity, about personal responsibility, about death, all those things. And hearing back from them, I realized that no matter what changes in the world, no matter how technology affects the way we all, and certainly young people, communicate, that the first time that you experience loss, death, the first time a pet dies, the first time a grandparent dies, the first time your best friend moves away, it's
Sure.
always earth shattering. And and I sort of that grew into a desire to tell a story that was about kids that are not yet teenagers. They're 11, they're 12 years old, and kids develop on a spectrum, but a lot of kids at that age can still present as innocent. They can still live in a
Sure.
world of imagination, and which is a great tool they use to process trauma. They might, if they've experienced personal loss already, a lot of it, they might be world weary, but it can run the gamut. And I wanted to make a story that was centralized
Mm.
around a female subjectivity and about female friendship.
Right.
That was chiefly about female friendship and their hopes, fears, dreams, and anxiety about the world changing, whether that is going to a new school and losing your friends, about your parents' marriage maybe not working out, or about death, or those abstract things in the world that sort of can make us anxious.
Right. And I think you hit the right buttons with every single one of these girls because there's a part of them, like there's nobody who won't relate to one of these girls in some way or another. And you would think at that age, like carefree, I got nothing to worry about. But what I love about this is that life isn't so carefree, especially now coming out of COVID and what these young kids, like bad enough what we all had to go through, but think about these kids
Yeah.
and how it's going to affect them. And I think that you've dealt with that so well. Was it a challenge for you when you were, I know you co-wrote it, but when you guys were sat down to write it, to like hit these buttons, not to be too preachy, but make it relatable?
Yeah, I mean, again, because it's something that myself, my co-writer, also has kids. We have similar background, close relationship with our sister, and children and daughters, like around the age of these characters. What's happening in the world is happening in our own homes. Like the
Right.
anxiety and fear of the world is a very personal thing for us. And I think, if what we want to understand, if we want to understand the way that structural violence is sort of transmitted through society and everything that suggests, sort of how someone might become unhoused, how a marriage might fall apart, how addiction might form, all of these things that can happen. I think stories need to contain multiple subjectivities. I think we all benefit from that. So, and when you're telling a story that is not exactly one-to-one your personal story, you might have blind spots. That's inevitable. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't try, because we all need to. Otherwise, we're going to repeat the same stories and not understand how we created the culture and world that we live in, for better or worse, and we will stay stuck. Right. So I think we went into the process just knowing that we needed to share the script at every stage with as many people as possible, and especially women who are in our lives, and ask them to share their stories, and their experiences of what it was like for them when they were 12 years old, and what it's like for them to have mothers, and also invite them to prosecute the script and tell us, this feels aestheticized or romanticized on the other side, or idealized. Like, what feels real? Like, that was something we were always going for, and especially with the cast and crew. Most of the department heads in this film are female, so and read the script from early on, and were able to sort of put their creative fingerprints on it and make it feel authentic to an experience that obviously everyone is an individual. We're not types.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
But making it feel real.
It did. No, it totally felt real. So casting these girls, like, I mean, I'm sure that you probably saw a lot of girls, but you got to find the right mix of four, which is not easy. To me, watching the four of them, like, it felt like they'd been friends forever. Like, did they jive immediately? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, it started, my producing partner, Jennifer Dana, was amazing just as far as just like taste and vibe and sort of talking. Again, she was one of the early people who could talk about her own childhood experience and different types of kids. And Avi Kaufman, who's the longtime casting director that I work with, she as well is so remarkable at advocating for great young actors. And she's a parent and sort of was able to put herself into it and bring people into the casting process, younger actors who just were exciting to us, who felt spontaneous and natural, who had wonderful imaginations. And then when we introduced them all, once we had sort of cast this group of friends together, we had them meet over Zoom because of COVID geography. And I was part of that first conversation with all of them, and I assumed I would sort of kind of help them talk to each other, which was so naive. I think I asked one question like, man, has it been weird, like, being home all this time and doing remote school? And I don't think I said another word for the next hour and a half. They just began to finish each other's sentences, and they're so funny, so smart, so politically astute. They have such different perspectives and different ways of seeing the world that were amazing. And my hope was just to support that and amplify that, and, capture that.
Yeah, and then of course casting the moms, and you have great actresses doing that as well. And it's got to be a challenge because you want to match the right actor with the right kid, but bang on, like, wow, that was really good. And Sarah, I have to say, I mean, Sarah Cooper, who of course we all knew and love over COVID, like her videos were freaking hilarious. And look at her,
Yeah, she's amazing. I mean, it was such a lovely mix of actors. And again, I was so grateful to have great partners and sort of putting together that ensemble of actors who plausibly could play the parents of these kids. And then they suggest an entire life outside of the film. But I mean, Megan Mullally is someone that I've known for years. She was in a movie I made called Smash, and she's amazing. Lake Bell, I've always been a huge fan of as a filmmaker and as an actor. Sarah Cooper helped me and my wife get through 2020 by making us laugh. And I just was so curious about this person, her mind. And then Ashley Madekwe, who's in it, came through the casting process and just blew us all away and was so amazing. So I'm grateful.
It's just so good. Really, really good. I have to ask you, James, you've worked on so many things, like from the films that you've given us to even like series work, like an episode of Shameless or Parenthood, like all my favorite shows and stuff. When you're working with young actors, even back like with Shailene Woodley, Miles Teller, you look at all these people, do you have that gut feeling? Yeah, this one's going to make it. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I know it's one of those things because of the nature of, to say the business sounds like a cliche, but because of the nature of the way things work, like you only can control what you can control as, say, a director or an actor. You commit yourself fully to stories that you believe in. You try to tell them as well as you can. sometimes they're going to connect better with a larger audience, which
Yeah.
might mean critically they're really better received, or they might make more money, or maybe they won't make any money, but some people will love them, or whatever it is. And you can't, a lot of that is just utterly beyond your control. And so you can't, it's hard to tell. I mean, when you're meeting an actor who's earlier in their career, what might happen 10 years down the line, you can only, I think, be a great advocate and a great fan for the performers and the creative personalities. I include like department heads, like costume designers and cinematographers in that way, with people who inspire you, whose imaginations you find to be vibrant and amazing and exciting. Like the young actors at the Corps of Summering, they just would always, during the audition process, just surprise us, made us feel, and there was a spark of something that was remarkable. So, I mean, all of them, I believe, I hope to see acting for the rest of their lives, if that's what they hope to do.
Yeah. And lastly, I just wanted to know, out of the 4 girls, which one did you relate to most in terms of when you were a young boy growing up? I love that Mari's the voice of conscience. Like, that would have been me. Like, phone somebody, like who did you relate to?
Oh man, I mean, there's I a little bit of all of them. Like Lola, who Sinai plays, who's into like Ouija boards and kind of like burning incense. It was a little bit. I kind of grew up in like a hippie house. Like,
Right.
I could relate to that. Mari, the actor that plays her, Eden, is so deadpan funny. I like to think I was that funny. I probably was not. Leah, who's at the center of it, who has like a deep well of emotions and has some trauma she's dealing with. There were things about her journey that I really connected to as well. I mean, there's a little bit of all of them. I mean, to be honest.
Well, they're a great mix. They are so good. You did such a wonderful job with this film. I really, really loved it, James. And
thank you
so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Bye. Yeah, you too. Take care. Bye-bye.